Hello, and welcome to Creative Curves. On today's episode, we welcome all the way from Helsinki, Makobeats. We talk about his new album, Homicide and Low Fidelity, how community has supported and helped shape his music, as well as his future ambitions in music. Listen in to learn more. How's it going?
Hey man, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for taking the time to come and talk about your music. I didn't know about you until about 2 weeks ago. My friend Ferg, who was also on the podcast a couple weeks ago, Ferg Methazine, uh, I liked his music a lot, and he came on, we talked, and then he said, "Hey, you know what? You liked my music. I bet you'll like this guy's music too." He found you, I think, through a Patreon account,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Um, but now that I've listened to your latest album, which is Homicide and Low Fidelity, I really like that album. Uh,
okay.
what was like the story or inspiration behind doing that album, and specifically the title of that album?
Yeah, the title's kind of funny. First of all, shout out to Ferg, solid dude and great producer. I also listened to his album and I liked it quite a lot. And I also was his interview, and we share a lot of same views on about how making music. But the title was it's kind of a funny thing we do. I'm also a member of, besides the Contact Williams, his Patreon. I'm also a member in one of our Discord groups here in Finland, which we have a lot of Finnish producers and rappers, and we like to call beats or music that someone makes when it sounds like it's dark and gritty hip hop with a really bad vibes or mood. We call it murder music, and I kind of wanted to take a twist on that to something that sounds even cooler than murder music. So I decided one of the beats, I call it Homicide in Low Fidelity, and because the mood of the beat, it was kind of this creeping. You're walking on the dark alley and it's raining and it's going slow, and what's gonna happen next? Something bad's gonna happen, and I decided it's just a fun title, so I'm gonna name my album that. And regarding the album, the whole idea uh, actually came in quite in a moment. I was going through my beats, and um, I was really busy this summer, and I didn't make many beats. And I also released an instrumental album earlier this year, and I was just going through the beats and figuring out what have I done after the last album, besides the beats that already have gone somewhere and someone is rapping on them. And I had about 30, 35 beats maybe, and I was going through them, and I decided why not put out an instrumental album. It was just a thought in a moment that I went through the beats and decided dropping out some of the beats that didn't go to the theme or sounded kind of bad at that moment. They might go somewhere else, but when I was picking the beats for the album, I decided to go with the ones that um, share a similar sound, or uh, when the order of the songs on the album, it kind of starts as more like happy beats, and towards the end there's some darker sounds, and ending into title song, it kind of has this drama a line going through the album if you listen to them in order, which I presume people usually nowadays don't do. They pick something here and there, but yeah, that was the idea at first.
Yeah, and like I I definitely agree. I think people don't necessarily always like listen to an album from beginning to end. When I first came across this album, I listened to it from beginning to end, and I definitely can kind of like hear what you're saying from like, you start from the beginning and you're going to hear like this kind of theme going all the way through to the end, which I liked. And then I think like a day or two later, I just hit shuffle and randomly just listened to some of the songs. And each time a different song came on, I was like, oh, like it's a different perspective because I'm not trying to, my brain I think isn't trying to carry anything over from the previous track to be like, oh, what's what's supposed to be similar from the last track that's carrying over to the current track. Each time when it's on shuffle, at least for me, it lets me just kind of like compartmentalize, like just say, all right, that song had its moment. I can like reflect on that song for a split second and know it's done, and then take the next song as being a brand new thing and have its own life, and it can tell its own story without having to worry about the relationships to the other tracks, which
Yeah.
I I definitely like the how you described the theme, or like the instrumental music of like murder music, because as soon as I was listening to Gotham City, I was like, oh, this is, this is a dark song, and it has like the Batman kind of reference there too, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not a good place to live in the comic books at all, and like people die there
No,
all the
no,
time. So
that's a great example. We had this competition on Conductor Williams's Patreon where we had to watch the first minute and a half of Batman movie, the new Robert Pattinson Batman, and create a score for that. So you can imagine how it goes. If you was seen the movie, there's the Bruce Wayne walking amongst people, and it's raining, and then the robbery starts in a store. So it kind of grows and it grows and it stops to a scene where Molotov's cocktail flies through the window and everything goes dark. So that's a great example, and it was a fun beat to produce because I usually when I make beats, I try to create a mood and I try to create a vibe and something that a rapper can somehow pick up the mood, and especially for me when I sometimes rap too, and when I hear a beat and instantly a story comes to mind or something. Okay, this goes with this beat, and I try to create those kind of scenes, kind of like Berg said about his reference to the movies and imagining scenes and stuff like that. But this one in particular was sort of a movie beat, so called. Yeah.
is there a particular way you go about trying to find a like either like a clip from a movie or from a TV show, just something visual that you can kind of set your beat to? Like, do you have a way of trying to find movies or anything like that to kind of say what's the inspiration going to be from like this scene to make a beat? Is that something that's normally part of your process?
Yeah, it sometimes is, and I like going through movie scores and soundtracks and old children's shows. And actually, maybe it was last year I made this. I borrowed about 10 CDs of Finnish movie scores and soundtracks, and it's something that you probably don't hear in the US because all Finnish movies it had soundtracks from movies from say 40s to 60s. Most typical Finnish movies at the time were lumberjack movies or military comedies. So you can imagine what the music is like. So it's kind of hard to sample, but I took that as a challenge. So I want to find something that nobody's probably ever used. And regarding movie scores, always they have their vibe of their own, and because they're made for a certain purpose, so you can easily relate to that. But of course, when flipping samples, you don't normally use. I personally don't normally use the sample as is, so just to loop it, but I chop it and play it in different order and do all kinds of things. But it gives the overall vibe, which I think it's cool to use movie sounds. And sometimes I just besides movies, it's had a one beat, the Holgersson one. It's from an old, I think made into something sometime in the early 80s maybe. We had in Finnish TV. Adventures of Nils is the English name for that, but it's based on this Swedish children books. But this was kind of the anime thing, and had this soundtrack, and there was this fun little loop that I decided just to loop that one. take a short clip and loop it. The beat is quite long, but I exported it as a 3-minute beat. So I decided, why not let it go like that?
Yeah, I like the idea of trying to sample things, especially things that are older, but I know like copyright laws, sometimes it's harder to say, "Oh, I'm going to release this," or if someone wants to rap on top of it. Sometimes you have to get
Yeah,
like
yeah,
additional permission for it. But that's
yeah,
why it's a lot easier, to your point, to like find those things that are really old that are no longer copyrighted or they're public domain. And one of the things that I like when it's things that are that old that you're sampling, for me, it's got to be something that I actually really like, because I have to sit down and watch probably an old movie that I've maybe never seen before, and you've got to you got to kind of really do like a fine tooth comb. You've really got to dig into the details and pick out what it is for that sample. Because
yeah.
like I think there was like a John Wayne cowboy movie I was trying to sample one time, and I was like, man, the audio in this is not that good. The
Mm.
story in this is like really bad. Like it's hard for me to stay engaged because I'm just like, there's nothing happening. But like at the same time, I'm like, people loved this movies like back in the 1920s and 1930s. So if I pick a sample out from something that's that old, I feel like A, I really like it. But B, also there's a part of me that's also kind of like paying tribute or paying homage to that work of art because I liked it so much to like to sample it. And so
Yeah.
I think I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I think like when we sample old things, we're also, paying homage to it, paying tribute, like kind of like in remembrance of like, I want to honor that work of art by sampling it.
Yeah, I agree. And besides sampling, there's some, of course, one shot from my sample archives, and I think there's some guitar that I played myself on one beat, and some beats are just really simple. So there's just this drums and simple bass line and some whining noise in the background and just piano chords. It's well, you can describe some Griselda style piece like that pretty easily, but just to create a mood, it doesn't require that much. So some samples they have a lot of stuff going on, and when you chop them and play them and tune them and whatever you do, you really don't have to play that much yourself and uh, don't have to use your imagination that much. But when you pick a very simple, a clean sample and then brutally mutilated with plugins, so it sounds like murder music. Then play something over it just to make it sound cool. If you know what I mean by just keeping it simple, because things don't have to be complicated to sound nice.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough part about sampling is that I think people have like a there's like one way that people know how to sample, and I think it's because of how like tracks that are really popular that have used samples, they just were have been pushed onto us so much by the media. So we think that's the only way to sample, which is where if there's a spoken word, you kind of just make the first word in that phrase like stutter a little bit with like the beat, and then you let the rest of the sample eventually play. And it's kind of like ingrained in my mind just because that's the this type of sampling I've heard the most when listening to music that has samples. So for someone that's trying to cut samples up a little bit differently or not have it to be where it's just the same sample that's just stuttering and then playing the rest of it out, do you have any tips or tricks to share on like how to make a sample sound a little bit more unique and not just kind of like a generic how you may have heard it on
Yeah,
several other
yeah,
albums before?
yeah. I think a lot of people do sampling with the chop to samples based on the transients. So you have these hits where you can pick them and play them in different order, and that's one way to do it. But I personally, I think I'm more interested in what happens after the transient. So you have this sound going on, and you have these tiny things, tiny details as in continuous to the transient, to the so-called hit. And when you move your marker a little bit, you get more interesting sounds. You just don't get the hits when you go like da 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 and play it in da da da. But what happens between the das, so to say? So you might have a lot of interesting sounds there, and you can pick them and tune them and make it sound louder and do a lot of stuff. Basically, anything you can do with a sampler, you can mangle the sound any way you like. But that's what the interesting stuff is, and to my opinion, and you can just use those sounds after the transients and make them continue and give them a some kind of atmosphere, and you can play something else on top of it. So you can have like this different layers of sampling and stuff going on. Um, and yeah, I think that's one way to do it, of course.
Yeah, I've heard about doing that, or I've seen people do that um for like drum beats, to where if they have their own specific sound that they want to use for like a kick or a snare, they'll find a drum pattern that might be similar, and they'll take out the initial hit of the kick or the snare in that pattern, and they just leave the transient, and they have that transient blended in with the sample that they want to use, and it makes the drums feel a lot more alive because of that leftover energy from that the initial transient or the initial hit.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think like you said, like that can be that energy that might be more fun to play with, and kind of bring a different perspective, because sometimes that's the energy you want in uh like in a sample, or that's the energy that sometimes might be a little bit more fun to emphasize and see how you can make that work, as opposed to the spoken word or something that someone else might already be expecting to happen for how that sample could be used.
yeah. Also, one thing is you can use pretty much anything as one shots. So there's probably two beats where I use vocal samples, and they're super short. There's like this and come on sounds, but it enriches the beat, I think, a little bit, because you can almost hear a rapper about to start doing something, and I find it more inspiring, because when you listen to beats as a rapper and you can almost hear something going on, and then you get the vocal stab, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is something I could rap on. And about sounds like that, when you use one shots, or about the sampling process itself, it's just what I find interesting is the element of surprise. So when you chop a sample, you might pick something that everybody knows and sample it and play it a little bit differently, but it might get kind of boring. So you want to have a little surprise at the end, or a sample that ends in the wrong moment. So you're waiting for something to happen, it doesn't happen, or it continues too long, and little moments of imperfection, to say, uh, make the beat more interesting, sound more cool. This is something I think a lot of producers do. For example, Conductor Williams, shout out to Conductor Williams, great producer. But The Alchemist and Darrin's, for example, they use a lot of this stuff. So you might have a beat when it starts. Okay, there's nothing going on, but then something else. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. So stuff like that make the beat cool, and it it uh, it depends on what you use on there. So you can do a one shot or sample in a so-called weird way, but it makes it more interesting, to my
Yeah.
opinion.
No, I totally agree. And like those imperfections are like, we think maybe music has to be like cookie cutter perfect, but really it's like the mistakes are what we kind of end up
Yeah,
liking the most, because of it's what makes it stand out more.
yeah.
And this is your second album this year. Was it, I know you said this was like tracks you already had kind of like made, and you went through and said, oh, these work well together. I could release these in an album. But do you typically see yourself releasing two or more albums in a year? Because I know it might be a little bit, it's a lot of work to put this many tracks together to release an album. I think you have like maybe 40, 50 tracks between these two albums put together. So is it a lot of time and energy for you to be able to put two albums together in 1 year?
No, not really. I could actually do more. I make beats almost every day. So if you count, there's like 300 beats a year, and most of them go to some rappers in Finland. And of course, there's this Na folder where I keep the beats that I don't really see anyone rapping on. Some beats are made as purely instrumental, so you can just listen to it. And I think it was last year when I released my first instrumental album, and it sounds quite different compared to these two. So it's more like this happier chill hop type thing, and those were instrumental beats, instrumental music definitely. But what comes to instrumental albums, I usually don't plan them ahead. So it's just I got a pile of beats and I go through them and okay, these work together as an album. And actually, a couple of beats on this album are just this week. A friend of mine sent me a demo where he used two of my beats. He blended in together. He had a little cut in the middle, so there's beat switch, and one of these beats was one on this album, and it's okay by me. So it doesn't really matter if your beat is released on an instrumental album. It's still okay if somebody raps on it. I don't. It's actually better. And releasing instrumental albums, I also see it kind of like promotion for myself. So if you stumble upon my beat albums, and you might find out that okay, I like them and I want to rap on this guy's beats, tries to contact me and stuff like that. It's always a plus if that happens. Hasn't happened yet, but still gonna make beats and maybe an instrumental album in the future. And what we talked about earlier about movie themes, and it might be more more of a movie score type thing, where I can put those beats that are definitely instrumental music as themselves. There aren't beats that are meant for rappers, but something like that. I haven't really planned on that yet for too much, but that might happen in the future.
Yeah, that would be really cool. But I do think, like you said, like this is like a promotional material almost for you as a producer or artist. And I don't, I'm not like really into the rap game per se, but I don't know if I've really heard too much of people being able to find um like instrumental beats and been saying like, oh, let me rap on that. Like, that's not my realm really. So I don't know how that process really works. I know some people like put their beats up like on like Beatport and things like that. Or I have a good friend who he's a producer, and what he does is every day he makes a beat and then he posts it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever,
Yeah,
and it's like the rap to this kind of thing. Or I've been seeing more and more people post things that they have a beat and they'll say sample this and then tag me in what you make in the sample. So
okay, cool,
I think
cool.
those are like avenues that people use to promote. Hey, you can rap on my music. Like, here's an open invitation to use it, and like
Yeah,
it's really great with like TikTok and like social media, because like if someone's really feeling the beat, they can just click two buttons, rap right over it, and then just post it. And
yeah,
then if it does well, hopefully they contact you and say, "Hey, I actually want to make this like an official track."
yeah. That's a cool way to do it. I've seen them videos sometime, and pretty bad with social media myself. I sometimes post short beat videos. Of course, when something new comes out, I promote it a little bit. And yeah, some most people I think put their beats in SoundCloud or Bandcamp, or if you're into that kind of thing, you might put them on BeatStars and sell them. But that's also it's a different world to say. I'd be lying if I'd say that I don't want money from my beats, but to just to sell them as bulk, it seems a bit kind of not like my thing. Because I'm always looking for to make songs with people. So when I make a beat, I want somebody to rap on it, and I want someone who's good. And I send my beats to rappers that I think are good. And if I would be selling beats on BeatStars or a platform like that, I would get money, but I wouldn't know who's gonna rap on them, what's gonna sound like, how bad it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So no judging. It's okay if you do that, and it's a great way if you make good beats and gain a lot of fame as a good BeatStars producer and get a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that, but it's just not for me.
Yeah. I get that too. I think like whenever you make any art, if someone's going to use it, you kind of want to have an idea of like how is it going to be
Yeah,
used because it's still your name on the original art at the end of the day. And it's better, in my opinion, to have a collaboration and make sure each person in the collaboration, their vision is reaching the fullest potential that they have for it, as opposed to you know, you selling a beat and then someone makes something and you're like, well, if I would have known what you were going to do with it, I could have changed a couple of things, made it sound a little bit better, or made it fit the theme or the vibe you were going for. So yeah, I get that. But how do you typically find people to rap on your beats? How do you track them down, or do you send beats to people? How do you find those rappers?
yeah. I make a lot of songs with my friends. We have this Discord community, rap show here in Finland, and I've made a lot of friends there during the few couple of years. I've met them live and hang out with them, and there are some really good rappers there. So I actually have an EP coming out this Friday with my friend Massali. It's a 5-song EP, and the beats sound a bit like homicide, homicidal. You know what I'm saying? And we make a couple of EPs, probably two in a year, and there's also some other people I send beats to, and you can post your beat demos there, and people who want to rap on them pick them, and I'm not worried there that somebody's gonna be so bad and the song is gonna be bad, and we can always do stuff together. But also there's this little dream of mine about making a producer album, and it's gonna be beats produced by me and rappers here in Finland, and I want the absolute best. Finnish rappers may not be a thing abroad, but here in Finland, I want the ones that I've been listening to myself and ones that I think are good. And the rappers vary. Of course, there's some friends of mine gonna be on that album, but also some of the biggest names in Finland that do the same kind of genre that I do. I'm not talking about new young trap artists or people like that. There's nothing wrong with that also, but some of people of my age and who've been making boom bap music for years and decades even. And I've got a couple of songs ready. I've released 2 songs as singles this year, and when I get like 10 songs maybe, then the album should be ready. And some of those people are people that I have never met before, never talked to. And I just sent him message in Instagram DMs or emailed them. Or some people say no, and some people say, okay, your beat is cool, I'm gonna rap on that. And it doesn't hurt trying. If you don't know someone, be polite. Present your business, ask politely, and if he says no, then it's a no, and it's okay. You have asked, because you can always get a no without asking. So
Exactly.
there's many ways how to approach people, and especially if you know someone who knows both of you, so you can say that, okay, this guy, friend of yours and friend of mine, said that you might be interested in doing something, and if you go to gigs or concerts or wherever and meet those people in real life, even if you haven't met them before, so you can go and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm a friend of this guy too, so it's nice to meet you, yada yada yada, would you like to rap on my beat?
Yeah, there's definitely like, a process to doing it, and a little bit of pitching yourself as there too. And you sound like you're a really busy guy. I mean, you've got so many projects going, like you're making beats every day. Uh, where can people find you like online and stay up to date with all the music you're going to be releasing? Because it sounds like there's already a lot that's come out, and it sounds like there's even more that's going to be coming out this year. So where can people stay up to date with you, find your music, and enjoy it?
Yeah, my music's on pretty much in every major streaming platforms, and I go by the name Makobeats. And every social, I mean, Instagram mostly. You can find me by Makobeats also. My Instagram name is El Makomain, and I also use Discord, so you might find me in Finnish Discords and Conduct Williams's Patreon. Shout out to my homies in the Conduct Union, and shout out to my homies in the Rapso Discord here in Finland.
Awesome. And we're going to have some links below in the description of this video to where people can find you online if they want to reach out to you. And we're going to have links for where people can check out your music as well too, because I know in the vast world of streaming services, someone probably has a similar name that's off by one letter, or the spelling is just a little bit different. So we're going to
Yeah.
link directly to your stuff to make sure it's easy for people to find your stuff and listen to it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And hey, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation. I've loved getting an insight into your music, your process, but more importantly, your work ethic. I think it's super important to be spending time every day working on music in some way. And you're doing that every day. And I think that shows with the music that you've released and all the great plans that you have to make music going forward. So shout out to you, your work ethic, you're doing it. And I think just doing it is the hardest part.
Yeah, thank you. And when you're having fun, it doesn't. You might work from 7 to 7, and it doesn't feel like work at all when you're doing something that you love. But thank you for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creative Curves. Makobeats' newest album is now available to stream on all platforms, but it's best if you can support through Bandcamp if possible. You can find the link to his Bandcamp in the description below, as well as all streaming. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give it a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more of these episodes, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Blue Sirens, and I'll see you on the next one.